Hello everybody and welcome to Nathan on Shuffle and to my latest episode here. Since I'm off to one side of the camera here, I think it's pretty obvious I'm doing a vinyl haul video. This is the vinyl that I received in September through December of 2023. I thought I'd catalog all of the releases that have come out and that I've picked up on physical format on vinyl. So I do this every few months and it's a lot of fun to showcase what I've received. These are all albums that I've probably talked about recently on the channel, especially if you've watched my year-end content of my favorite albums of the year. Many of these have been focused as my favorite albums of the year, and so please check out those shows if you want more information. I've also done album reviews and all that kind of stuff, but I thought it's fun to just do a quick and casual rundown of all the cool albums that have come across my table and maybe give you guys some recommendations to check out or share some of the things that you've picked up in vinyl in the last few months. So the first one that I wanted to feature here is Southern Empire, Another World. This is an Australian prog band that came out with this new album this year, hotly anticipated by me. And it was a really cool one. It took me a little bit of time to really warm up to it, but it's really cool, classic prog AOR, with a little bit of a harder edge to it, but some really cool rocking songs. There's a great prog epic on here. They have a new singer who's fantastic and showcased, and it looks like they're already at work on their next project, so I'm really excited for the future of this group. One of the premier cool prog bands that are out right now that you should be checking out. Really cool stuff. This is kind of a random one. I got this one, Gleb Kaden. This is The Outland. This is an instrumental album, really beautiful, like classical type music from the one half of I Am the Morning, if you're familiar with that group, a duo from Russia who play fantastic, more chamber pop, prog kind of stuff. But this is a fantastic record full of great classical arrangements, maybe a little bit jazzy at times, but all grounded by Gleb's fantastic piano playing, one of the great players of the modern age. Definitely well worth checking out. A beautiful instrumental album that probably snuck by a lot of people's radar, but is a really cool one that I've really enjoyed. I've got the new Interview by Gentle Giant. Haven't quite unwrapped this one yet, as you can see from the glare, but this is Interview, the new Steven Wilson remakes on vinyl. I also have it on CD and the 5.1 and all that stuff as well. But this is a cool vinyl to check out. One of my favorite Gentle Giant records. A little bit underrated in my estimation because I think this was really solid and showcased a lot of talent from the band. A lot of their quirkier side. Probably their last really acclaimed progressive rock album before they experimented with some other directions on the next album. Still some good stuff to come, but this was, to me, the defining end of the classic era of the band, and really a wonderful record that I had to pick up. This is the new one from Mystery. This is their album Redemption. Really loved this as well. Just a beautiful cover, beautiful packaging, really great longer extended tracks and a lot of great storytelling, a lot of emotional vocal and instrumental performances from the group. I just thought this was a treasure of an album from this year. Really showcased some of the best. I believe this band's from Canada and they never disappoint. Just classic neo-prog done really expertly well. Always sounds pristine and really beautiful, and this record's no exception to that. Just doing what they do best. Back to Southern Empire, I decided I should also pick up their first self-titled record. I have their second one as well that I got, a few years ago, Civilization, which is probably my favorite of theirs, but I wanted to complete their catalog and get the debut record as well. So this is also similar to their new one, just classic, cool, progressive rock done in a modern, harder style. Just really cool stuff, and really enjoyed this record. So definitely a good one to add to the collection. I got the latest by the Flower Kings, of course. Look at You Now. Kind of an interesting cover art there. Really fabulous release from the band. Maybe not my favorite of theirs, if I'm being totally honest about it. I feel like their newer records haven't quite hit as hard as some of their classics. I kind of wish they'd go back to having some of these more expanded prog epics, but this focuses more on shorter pieces, and but it has a lot of cool moments. It's still Flower Kings. It's still one of my favorite bands, and Rona Stolt still does an expert job at producing and writing these albums and coming out with some fantastic progressive rock, symphonic progressive rock that you can't argue with, straight out of Sweden. Love these guys, love all that they do. So this is another treasured record I had to have in the collection. Now to a debut album by a new band. This has been going around on these year-end lists. The Anchorites. It All Began with Loneliness. This is a fantastic record. More on the harder edge of the prog spectrum, more progressive metal. There's some heavier blast beats type sections and things like that. Fantastic vocals. One of the greatest parts of their sound to me is they experiment with, there's some saxophone and some flute and some classic mellotron and those types of instruments. So they're playing with a lot of these cool classic progressive instruments, but doing it in a more modern, heavier, progressive metal style. Andy Tillison plays the keyboards on this record, so kind of a cool Easter egg there for all prog fans. But a really cool record that I really enjoyed. I think the cover art's really cool, and it was one of the standout records of last year that I really fell in love with. So glad to have it as part of the collection here. I got this one that was reissued. This is Riverside's Shrine of New Generation Slaves, an album that's, a few years old now, but a great album from them that showcased them maybe streamlining their sound a little bit into a different direction, but really great record all the same. Just some really excellent tracks. I love Escalator Shrine is one of their absolute classics, and it sounds great in this reissue. I'm always happy when these bands reissue their albums because I feel like I got on the train a little bit late to the vinyl hobby. So a lot of these albums that I really enjoy that have come out over 5 years ago or so are just impossible to find now. And so it's really appreciated when they're able to reissue it in a format like this so I can pick it up. So really appreciated, really love it. Now onto something a bit more classic flavored. I've been getting into the Steely Dan catalog, and this one is Asia, which they've been doing also a reissue campaign for their classic records. So I've been picking them up as they come along, and this was one of the latest ones, Asia. There's also another one in the list that'll come up shortly. But this is a great record, one of their classics, all-time classic. I feel like any record collection should have this in their lineup. This is just a really great record that really stands the test of time and sounds pristine now, just as it did back in the 70s. So really beautiful. Definitely has to be in my collection. Really great stuff there. Another new album by a new band that was new to me this year, Advent Horizon, A Cell to Call Home. Really a great new band that I hadn't heard of before, hailing from Utah in the U.S. here. This isn't their first album. They've been around for a little while, but this is the first one I've discovered them with. And they sent me their CD for purposes of reviewing and all that kind of stuff. But I had to actually go buy the vinyl myself because I love the record that much. Has to be in the collection. Absolutely gorgeous. Really love every track on this. It's just a real gem of an album. One of my favorites of the year. It placed pretty well in my year-end tournament. And I'm just happy to have a new band to fall in love with and to consider one of my new top-tier bands. So Advent Horizon really knocked it out of the park this year. If you like more modern progressive rock and stuff, this is just should be right up your alley. Really cool stuff. I also got the new Deer Hunter. This is like a revisiting of one of their prior albums, Migrant. This is Migrant Revisited, I believe it's called, or Migrant Returned, I guess. So this is a really cool record. It sounds fresh and pristine here, slightly different mixes. The track listings in a different order. They're incorporating some of the more bonusy type tracks into the main track list and just giving a refreshed new sort of version of this album, and it just sounds so pristine and so perfect, and I'm just so excited to have this in the collection. This is an underrated record from them. Everyone talks about the Axe series as some of the premier material from them, but I think this is right up there with that material. Maybe a bit more of a mainstream type sound that they were going for, but beautiful songwriting and some really great tunes here to check out. So that's the Deer Hunter. We've got Steven Wilson's latest, right? The Harmony Codex, which inspired maybe some controversy in some circles, but I really love it. I think it's a fantastic auditory experience. Just great production value. Steven Wilson is a master at what he does, and I love several of the tracks here. It's just a really beautiful record that I fell in love with this year. I thought it was really expertly crafted and continues to improve with age as I listen to it more and more. It's just total ear candy, and Steven Wilson giving a little piece of his history and everything that he's been involved with, and I just adore it. So another great album from Steven Wilson. Really cool. Now we've got Patternseeking Animals, Spooky Action at a Distance. This is their latest record, their fourth record from some of the past members of Spock's Beard. Has a little bit of that quirky flavor, but they also introduced some new styles and sounds to it. Just that great melodic prog that I really love, that focuses on melody first, but then adds a lot of adventurous, cool stuff on the side. Really another solid entry from them. I feel like all their albums are of a similar quality level, and they're all worth having. So this is just another one to add to their notch of great records. Really recommended for all of you who like Spock's Beard and those types of bands. It's just right up your lane, and I'm sure you'll love it. I picked up, there's a lot of talk about this when the new Beatles single hit. They also re-released their Red and Blue albums, which I talked about a bit on. I did a show of some of the albums that changed my life. And these were really the first albums that I ever heard as a young kid. My dad got me the Red and Blue on CD, and I wore those out as a young kid. I still have them in my collection, but I thought they're worthy enough to also add and have on vinyl. So, and I didn't get it, they've been available for a long time, but this is a new version of them that adds another LP that adds a whole bunch of new songs to it. So I thought it would be cool to pick this up and to have these in the collection just as a little bit of a nod to the influence of those compilation albums when I was a youth. Even though I have most of their other records on vinyl, and so most of these songs are represented in different ways in my collection, but I thought it would be fun to have this in the collection as a little bit of a nod to that classic Beatles love that I have. So of course also have to have the blue as well, which is, it's cool that it also contains the new song on here. So I have the new track Now and Then on vinyl as well, which some people argue with because, the collection's 1967 to 1970, and of course Now and Then didn't come out in those years. It's much more recent, but I don't mind. I think it's cool to have it on the collection. So really cool to get some Beatles compilation stuff going on in the collection. Really love that stuff. Then we've got this new one here, David Lungden's Wild River. This is the lead singer of Big Big Train, who unfortunately passed away. This is one of his prior solo albums, but this is like a remastered, redone version of it after his passing, maybe giving a bit of celebration to him as an artist. So this is a really cool one. He came out with a posthumous album, Door 1, I believe, last year. But this is an album that precedes that one, I believe. He wrote it a while back, but they've brought it to life, and it's sort of in honor of his name and, to honor him in his time of passing and all of that. So a really great record, a really incredible artist. I really love his work, and it's such a sad thing that he's not part of Big Big Train anymore. But it's great we have these treasured solo albums to really feel his spirit. That's a good record to check out. I've got the new one here from DMJ, from DiVirgilio Morrison Jennings, sophomore. Their foray into more folk rock type territory like Crosby, Stills, and Nash, with incredible 3-part harmonies. Really beautiful, just in line with their previous record, which I also loved. Definitely have to have this in the collection as a huge Neil Morse fanatic. So very much appreciated. I love the style that it's their own school yearbook. That's kind of fun. And so really cool record, definitely worth having as part of my collection. Really love that. Next, I have a new record that I like so much upon first listening that I had to just immediately order it. It was Earthside's new album, which is called Let the Truth Speak. Fantastic progressive metal album. They're mostly an instrumental outfit, but they hired these vocalists to join them and guest on all the tracks. and it's really incredible to hear all the different vocal inflections, and it's a cinematic experience. There's so much going on in the music. It takes you on a journey. So I had to pick it up because I was so impressed upon my first listen. I just think it's really remarkable what they're able to accomplish. There's some instrumental tracks here, especially the final track, which is like this really big epic soundscape, but the vocalists all do an incredible job throughout the album as well, just giving great performances all the way around. And it's an album I think you have to experience just to get a flavor for what it is. Even if it's not necessarily your thing, I think there's a lot to really take away and to appreciate for this album. So that's Earthside's Let the Truth Speak. I picked up the new Feel Euphoria by Spock Beard. This is their album that they came out with after Neil Morse left the group, their first post-Morse album, first time issued on vinyl, so I had to pick it up. This is an important album to me. I know not everyone is into this era of Spock Beard, but it was important to me because I became a fan of Spock Beard just at the moment that Neil Morse left the band, so I was a bit devastated that they were losing their main songwriter and main frontman, and like thinking, how in the world are they going to follow this up? And when this came out, I was happy. I was satisfied with it and said, okay, they're still going to continue as a band. They still rock. They still have some cool sounds to them. And now it's like I get two bands for the price of one. I get Neil Morse solo material and I get Spock Beard material, still doing great progressive rock music. So this album really grew on me, and I really appreciate it for what it is and for the amount of courage it took for the band to be able to forge ahead without their main songwriter and to still come out with excellent material is something to be celebrated. So really great record. Really excited to have that one in the collection. Now I have a pair of records from Jellyfish. These are records, these came out like more in the early 90s. This is power pop, but has influence by bands like Queen and the Beatles and, ELO and things like that. Mike Portnoy is one of the champions of this group and one of the reasons I got introduced to them. He talks all the time about this being one of his favorite groups. I just adore them. They haven't really had their albums really accessible on vinyl until now. They've been reissued and are now easily available, and I had to pick it up. So this is their first album, Belly Button. Really fantastic. And then I also have Spilt Milk as well on vinyl. So really excited to get into these even more, and just I love the music here. This is my kind of thing. Love it. Not progressive rock, but just wonderful power pop music that really sings and is catchy and fun to listen to. Back to the Steely Dan reissues. I have Gaucho as well on vinyl. Just got this recently as well, so another classic album from Steely Dan that I had to add to the collection. Almost have their whole classic discography now. There's only a couple that I'm waiting on for their new reissues, but really fantastic record. Excited to put that one on the turntable. And then we've got Unitopia's album here, Seven Chambers. Another Australian prog outfit, reunited after a bit of a split. Back in the day, they came out with Artificial and then split the group, the members forming United Progressive Fraternity and Southern Empire, but now they've reunited for a big concept album. This is a pretty lengthy record with a lot of longer pieces, but just classic progressive rock, done really expertly well with some great moments, great conceptual pieces. It's like about aging and some of the ailments that the members have. And so it kind of makes sense for an aging prog band to make a concept record about their ailments and about some of the health issues that plague a lot of people. So really interesting record, some extended interesting tracks. They're always doing something quirky and different, and I really respect it. So really great record from them. And then I just recently also got Temek's album, Terror Management Theory. This is the group featuring Eric Gillette and Diego Tejeda. Diego, formerly of Haken, and Eric Gillette, of course, from the Neil Morse Band, and they bring on some other musicians who are also incredible and put together some of the best progressive metal of this year. I wasn't as impressed by the singles when they were coming out, but hearing this album in full really brought it to life and showcased some real talent, and I just can't wait to see what they come up with next. This is premier progressive metal music that I think needs to be heard by all. And give it a shot. If you weren't that impressed upon first listens, everyone that I know has really grown to love this record over time. So really great one. We'll have a couple more here. These are very recent acquisitions here. Actually, I got this one for Christmas from Jana's family, from my wife's parents. They got me a Queen album, A Day at the Races, classic Queen. I have A Night at the Opera on vinyl, but I hadn't had this one yet, which I think is almost just as good as that one. Some really underrated classics on this that I absolutely love. So really cool music, and I'm excited to play this one as well. And then my dad came through, and of course, because it's my dad, he has to pick me a Yes album. This is one I put on my list. Yes is the Ladder. I believe this came out in the 90s, but it's just a great Yes album that's more modern, and I think it's underrated. I think it's one of their best, more recent works, you know. A lot of people talk about their classic albums from the 70s, and you really can't touch those. Those are kind of untouchable. But outside of those, I think this is one of their best albums and showcases them trying to get back to their roots a little bit, to some classic progressive rock sounds that they're known for, and just has a real cool feel to it. Really fun, light, bright album that I've really fallen in love with. And then finally, it has to come, right? I waited a long time for this. This is one of my favorite, maybe the favorite. Check out my top 16 rankings for the year if you haven't yet. This is Moon Safari's Himmelbakken Volume 2. Picked this on vinyl. I had to get it shipped from overseas. It's only available, I believe, in the UK and Burning Shed. So I had to get it from there, but it's here in all of its glory. This is, I believe, the only Moon Safari album on vinyl. Beautiful. I'm really excited to dive deeper into it. I've listened to this record countless times over the past month or so, but I'm excited to get it on vinyl and to listen to it even more so. Everyone needs to hear this who loves progressive music. That's my opinion. Beautiful vocal harmonies, some great proggy moments, some great catchy moments, great melodies. It just has it all, and is a brilliant record, just something for everyone. So those are the records that I've gotten over the past few months. Quite a good little haul there, I thought. A lot of newer records, a lot of the ones I've been talking about in conversation of my favorite records for the year. So hopefully you guys have appreciated this show, and hopefully there's something there that interests you. Let me know in the comments any of the records that stood out to you, and any records you've received over the last few months. And we'll see if I do this in the coming year. I'm trying to I say this every video, but I'm trying to slow down the amount of vinyl that I'm buying, especially as we're moving and going into a new house. There's a lot of costs associated with a move and getting things situated in that way. So I'm trying to cut back a little bit. We'll see if that actually takes hold, or if I get the bug again and end up just buying a bunch more vinyl. So it's a fun hobby. I love collecting it, and I really love sharing it with you guys. So hopefully you appreciated the video, and I'll hopefully catch you guys in a future episode. Bye, everybody.